Hello everyone, my name's Mick, I drive cars, and I love this RS Megane. But there are a few things that irritate me. I just want to preface this video by saying I do really like this car. If I was to go out and buy another car today for £30,000 to £35,000, I would buy the same car. And that speaks volumes. I've had the car for 6 months and I'd buy it again. The car does have a few flaws, and we'll talk about those. I'll get you on my head. That's going to be the easiest way to show you. Number one thing I hate about the RS Megane, it's these things. Let's see if I can show you the brand on here. Bridgestone Potenza S001. Of all the points that I'm going to make in this video, this is the only one that I truly hate. Controversial point, I'm aware. Some people are going to come back and say I'm absolutely wrong and these tyres are brilliant. I know some of you typed in the comment already. I just don't get on with them. Bridgestone have done something that's really good, right? This extra wide shoulder, normally you would have an extra sipe down here, same as these three, you'd have 4. But Bridgestone has got this extra wide shoulder for really good grip in the dry, right? When I had this car, I got this car at the tail end of summer last year, and the grip in the dry and the warm was phenomenal, right? This car cornered harder than anything I've ever sat in. It was the first car that I'd had where I didn't have enough skill to exceed the limits of the car. It was that grippy, right? And these tyres are a big part of that, but they only work in the warm and the dry. Today's wet. Most of the last 3 or 4 months have been wet. In the wet, they are, I'm sorry to say this for everybody that's going to try and defend them, but for me, they are useless. Second or third gear, 50% throttle, wheel spin. I know how to roll into throttle. I used to ride motorbikes. It's just, they're just not good in the wet. I also had a moment around a roundabout where I completely lost the rear. I had like a whole turn of opposite lock on. That's not something you want happening on the public road. I don't like these tires. I don't like these tires. Like I say, they're gonna get replaced. We'll put something better on, and I think it will transform the car. Number 2, most annoying and frustrating thing about this car are these paddles. So, the issue is the paddles, but I have to give you the backstory to fully understand this, okay? But basically, Renault has this little nubbin that has volume control, stereo controls, phone controls, like forward, backward track. It's a cost-saving measure, right? Because they've taken that off of some other cars, and rather than redesigning the actual steering wheel to have audio controls on it, like every other manufacturer, what they've done is they've stuck this cheap little plastic thing. But the real issue with that is that it blocks the shift paddles coming down lower. So if you see through that little gap, the shift paddle couldn't extend lower because you need to use the buttons up here, right? Now this causes an issue because the paddles are fixed. You can turn the wheel and, and the paddles stay in position, which is the way it should be. That's a really good idea. It means that if you're in a corner, you know exactly where your shift paddles are, right? Now, most of the problem doesn't come from downshifting, because generally when you're downshifting, you're in a straight line, boom, boom, downshift into the corner, right? No problem. The issue comes when you're turning right and you want to upshift. Because as is common knowledge, the best position to have your hands on when you're driving quickly is 9 and 3. That gives you the most control over the steering wheel. But if you turn right, you can no longer reach the shift paddle. If you turn left, it's okay. But if you turn right, you can't reach the shift paddle. And this is, if you've got an eagle eye, you can actually see this in some of my POVs. And it's a little bit annoying. And it's almost like salt in the wound because of the fact that it's because of the cost savings. That just makes it feel a bit cheap. If it was a design decision, maybe Renault want you to have your hands up here and then you can reach it all the time and whatever. This is not the ideal position to have your hands. You need your hands at 9 and 3. So if it was a design flaw, I could forgive it. But it's not a design flaw. It's cost savings. That feels cheap. I don't like that. Issue number 3 that frustrates me, that I hate when it comes to the Megane RS, is that there's no good manual option. At heart, I'm a manual lover, guys. You saw me drive that M140i, and rowing your own gears in a sporty car is one of the best feelings. This Autobox is great. Don't get me wrong. This car's my daily driver. I know that's a bit strange for a Meg RS, but it is my daily driver. I drive it every day. I live in London, and the Autobox is nice to have, right? But when I'm on that Sunday morning drive and it's 7 a.m. and there's not another car on the road, I have these flashbacks. My first car was a 2003 Honda Civic, and I ripped the center console out of it and I put this metal shifter in there. And when you changed gears, it went click, click, click. And it was an awesome experience to connect with a manual like that. There's no good option for a manual in Megane RSs. Even the early 280s and 300s had a manual option, but I've been made aware that they have some issues. There's bearings that wear out. They're not the most reliable units. And from what I hear, the action is not as satisfying as you would want it to be. So I think it's such a shame. Yes, Renault Sport, but I mean, across the board, there's a lot of manufacturers that make either no manual or a subpar manual. And it's such a shame. A manual is a bit more timeless, I think, and on the right road, a bit more enjoyable. So it's a shame there's no good manual. Don't get me wrong, EDC box, brilliant. I love it. I would have a tough time deciding to buy a manual or an EDC if I was to buy the car again. But I think a good manual might just sway me. Facelift model has no manual at all. Number 4, thing that frustrates me. I'm going to keep saying this, that I hate about this car. This seat is as low as it will go. You can't go any lower, right? You can go up. Let me stop being silly. That's as low as it will go. I don't think the seating position is low enough. Now, of all the cars I've ever sat in that have a slightly higher driving position than I like, this is the best one because the belt line of this car is really high. When you're driving fast, you feel like you're in the car and you feel like you're cocooned. But when you pull up next to someone in a Mini, an MX-5, Z4 Boxster, basically any sports car, Mini's not a sports car, but you get what I mean, any lower car, you can tell that you're significantly higher than they are. And I'm not a super tall guy, I'm like 5'11", my seat's all the way down, and I'm sitting higher than like short girls in Minis. I don't like that. I like to feel as low down in the car as possible. It just gives you a better feeling when you're attacking corners. It's not egregious like in some cars, like I drove a Focus RS, that was really bad. Yaris GR, that was really bad. But it's also, you don't get that really low feeling like you do in a Mini, an MX-5, a Boxster, a Z4. Even that M140i I drove, you could get, if you put the seat all the way to its lowest setting, you could get lower than you can in this car. Bit of a shame. The 5th thing I hate about this car. Now this one is a really niggly one, and it's a bit strange. So, it has to do with the Bose stereo system. You have all these settings. You're back on my head, by the way, because it's an easier way to show you this. But you have all these settings for the audio, right? You have all these different modes like studio and solo and all of this stuff, and it's all really cool. And then you have tone controls. But the tone controls, as I've got them set up, I just like a touch more bass. They don't apply unless you change them. So basically, every time you start the car, If you want that tone control, you have to go up to 6 and back down to 5, and then it will apply. Otherwise, it's as if everything was stuck on 0. That's just annoying, isn't it? Having to go into this menu. It's a bunch of button presses as well. It's settings, sound. No, it's not down there. It's audio, tone control, and then I find that frustrating, having to do that every single time you get in the car. Right then, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it useful, enjoyable, whatever reason you decided to click the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more about RS Megane and other cars in general. I've got a lot of content about this car on the channel, but I also review other cars. If you want your car on the channel and you want to be part of this, let me know. I'm in the London area. If you want to let me drive your car, I will travel down to you and drive your car. Tell you what I think about it, which you might not always like. As always, everybody always leaves loads of comments on these videos, and I love you for it. If you have any advice, if you want to argue with me over some of these points, I know the tyre comments are coming. Just hit me up, leave a comment, let me know. But apart from that, thank you all for watching. Appreciate all the support. The channel's growing faster than ever. See you in the next one. Next one will be quite exciting.